Hey guys, and here. So Poco are or were a part of Xiaomi, who actually, to be fair, a lot of people don't know who Xiaomi are. So probably even less people are going to know who Poco are, but Poco were a part of Xiaomi, and they kind of separated them off to be their own brand. Although Xiaomi still makes the Poco phones, and this Poco still uses Xiaomi software, and I don't know what actual difference it makes. But either way, Poco are, I was going to say known for, by some people, for making some really well-priced devices, I suppose. Good value devices, high-performing but reasonably cheap devices. And the latest one to appear on everyone's radar is the Poco M3, which will cost you anywhere from about £110 to £150. So that's what I'm taking a look at today. So I actually quite like the design. It's quite a funny sort of head. It reminds me a little bit in some ways of the Pixel device that had a different sort of top bar, but it is just within a window of the top of the device. I quite like it though, with the Poco branding there, and obviously the camera lens array on the other side, and then sort of a pebble, a textured back. I think it looks quite nice. It is a bit thick. It's 9.6 millimeters thick, and it weighs 198 grams, but that's because it's got a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. And actually, knowing that it has 6,000 milliamp hour battery, it almost feels a little light and a little hollow in some ways. I'm not saying it is, it just feels that way. You expect it to be a heavier device, really. It's available in this is Cool Blue. It also comes in Poco Yellow and Power Black. And it does come with one of I was going to say Xiaomi's standard cases. I've not used it, but it's one of those sort of generic rubber TPU, PC, rubbery cases. The hardware itself, the chipset is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 662, which is an 11 nanometer chipset. It's got an octa-core CPU, it's got an Adreno 610 GPU. This one has 128 gig with 4 gig of RAM and cost me £150, but if you went down to the £120, this is still from within Europe, or it was if we're still in Europe when we leave Europe. But you can get it 64 gig also with the 4 gig of RAM. Interestingly, the 64 gig version has UFS 2.1, the memory system this is, and this version has UFS 2.2. This one Geekbenched at around 1250 as an average. Isn't great, that's quite low, And honestly, I'm normally saying, yeah, but let's ignore Geekbench, it's all about the experience. Actually, it feels a bit like it struggles at times. So I think it was in the unboxing that I'd mentioned that I think Marcus Brownlee had said he had the device and it was actually a little bit laggy and slow. And I think I'd commented, it didn't seem too bad though in the unboxing. But actually in use, it does start getting a little bit frustrating in how long it can take to do things. It's just... You notice it, you do notice it. And I guess you do say, well, it's a £150 phone, what are you expecting? You have to give some allowances for that, I suppose. It doesn't have NFC. It does have dual SIM and a micro SD card slot. It's got one of those massive, big, long SIM trays. Side-mounted fingerprint sensor. So the fingerprint sensor is part of the power button there. There's two different modes. You can either have it so that it's just always monitoring you just hold your thumb on it and it opens up, or you can have it so that it only reads when you press the power button. Now, you might have seen, I hold my thumb on. Again, that's a little bit slow. And strangely, there were times that, so I figured, well, maybe if you press the power button, you kind of almost force it in, and you kind of force it into reading your thumbprint. But I had sometimes, I don't know if it was maybe doing a bit quicker, and by the time I pressed it, actually it turned on and I turned it off again. But basically, there were times where I would put my thumb on and press, nothing at all happened. I'd release and then I'd hold it on and wait a bit longer, and then the screen would come on unlocked. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know, again, if that's sort of the lagginess of the phone. I'm not sure. It generally seemed quite reliable. When I could get it to work, it detected, I mean, to be fair, I didn't try with anyone else's thumb. Maybe it was ignoring my thumb and just turning on. But no, I mean, it seemed quite reliable. I don't think it failed at any point. It was just a bit slow. The stereo speakers, they scored 90, it has stereo speakers. So we have speakers at the back there and at the top there. I don't really go over the phone much apart from the back, I suppose. The volume rocker on the right hand side with the power button. The USB Type-C at the base, and we do have a headphone jack at the top. And I think it's an IR blaster at the side there. So the speakers, the stereo speakers, they scored 87.9 in my test, decibels that is. Kind of mid-table, which actually surprised me a little bit. I thought they would score higher. They sounded louder to me than that. Because I would say generally they sounded okay. They sounded pretty good. Weirdly, I swear the Bluetooth volume kept resetting. So when I would connect to my car and I'm driving, I pulled into the petrol station, filled up, and then came back out, turned everything back on again, and the volume would reset to midway. I had to turn it back up again, which is a little bit weird. I don't know quite why it does that. Small thing, but let's give you a demo. So I thought the speakers, yeah, they're not bad, to be fair. I do use the speakers on the phone a lot. Not listen to music, listen to podcasts. In fact, let's just crank a bit of podcast real quick.
It at least probably makes you a little less important in that moment.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And how long do you and Randy stay married?
5 years.
I can't imagine you taking the bull by the horns.
So yeah, I mean, I think the speakers are pretty good. If we move on to the screen, let me see if I've still got YouTube open. There we go. So it is a 6.53 inch IPS LCD screen, 83.4% screen to body ratio, 1080 by 2340 pixels, that's 19.5 by 9 ratio, and about 395 pixels per inch density. It's all covered by Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which although it might be a few years old, I mean that's still pretty good. And on the whole, I would say it looks quite good. They're strong colours. It's a good full, small bezels, nice strong colours. In fact, to the point that at my lunch break today, I had my Pixel with me, I had this with me, and I needed to catch up on some of the latest NFL action. And I watched it on this because the speakers and the screen made for a good viewing experience. One of the problems though, it's not very bright, so it only scored 243 lumens on my with my light meter. We're on a white screen, brightness, ultra brightness off, and just cranked right up to the top. And it's got 243. That's actually the weakest, the worst I've ever had. And I mean, to be honest, the sun hasn't been out, so there's not really been big times where I've really tested that. But that will cause you some problems in bright daylight. It won't be as visible. But generally, it's a nice screen, I think. It generally does look nice. The viewing angles aren't too bad. You can see it fades off a bit as we go to the different angles. But on the whole, I think the colours look quite strong. And it's not a bad screen. It is not a bad screen. And you also get a screen protector pre-applied. I don't know if you can see around the edge there. But it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet, the screen protector. They often are when they're kind of these sort of almost plasticky, rubbery type of screen protectors. So moving to the cameras. So the main camera is a 48 megapixel f1.8 regular wide angle. Then we have a 2 megapixel f2.4 macro and a 2 megapixel f2.4 depth sensor. On the front we have an 8 megapixel f2.1 regular wide angle. The software is fine. Xiaomi they've gone quite sort of stock with software. We'll come to software in a moment, I suppose. So that's fine. It's a little slow in loading, and the shutter. So let's just give you a quick example of the shutter time. I don't really need something to actually point at. You just want to see So that's a little bit slow, and you do kind of notice that when you're taking pictures. But photos from the main lens, I mean, they're okay. It's reasonable detail. The colours were okay most of the time. Aside, like, not being great, perhaps it was just a bit inconsistent. Low light was okay. Night mode didn't particularly make much of a difference, if I'm honest. The front-facing camera was not good. The colours seemed a little off and faded. The portrait mode on the front-facing camera again was okay. Macro didn't seem too bad if it's something that you want to use. Generally took a couple of photos with that. Then if we move on to video, I mean, I would say out and out, unfortunately, yeah, video was just bad. It was very jerky and unstable. Colours weren't particularly great. You can see it here. I just don't think it looks that good. The front-facing video, obviously, the front of the camera's not great. The video is not going to be particularly good either. So, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't suggest this is a phone for you if you're into taking a lot of video. Clearly and obviously, there's no 4K video. If we move on to the software, it is running, I think it's a MIUI 12. Storage, anything else you might see there. Actually, MIUI these days, it used to be kind of MIUI. I quite like it now. A lot of people, I think, quite like it now. It's gone a bit more stock. It's stock with a lot of nice little features like floating windows. So let me see if I can show you a floating. So we're gonna float the music app. Hold on that. Oh, okay, bad example because that's one that we can't float. Nor that. I know I can do this one. Oh, didn't mean to select it. I meant to hold down on it. There we go. So as you saw, yeah, not all apps can, but you can float certain apps and you can still operate the app from inside that window. Or you can, I think, there you go, put it back to be. So little bits like that could be handy. There is a dark mode. It wasn't great because it's kind of a homemade dark mode. And there were certain bits where there was dark text and it put a dark background in and I couldn't read the text. There are a lot of themes. I don't know that you need to see them, but there's a theme. Again, you're getting to see a bit of how slow and frustrating in some ways the device can be. There are the built-in ads. Most of the adverts you can remove and get it to bypass. I did do a separate video some time back on how to do that. But there are themes. If theming's your thing, there's quite a lot of different themes you can choose from. There's an ultra battery saver mode. We'll come to that in a little while. And there's this iOS-like control center. So you don't have to. You can have it set up like a normal Android phone. You just pull down. You've got your toggles and you've got your notifications. But you can separate them. So at the moment, on the left side is notifications, and on the right side is the control center. Hello, there we go. Which, again, you see in sort of the performance issues there, I suppose. Which, yeah, why not? Seems quite nice. Oh, and they finally put an app drawer. So Xiaomi haven't had an app drawer for a long, long time, and we've finally got an app drawer, which is great. What else? The bloat is removable. So, I mean, one of the cleaning apps basically gives you a whole list of apps that you don't use these much, and you can just go down and select that. Yeah, get rid of them, and it will uninstall them. It's good. There's an app called Don't Kill My App, or something along those lines, which you run a benchmark for 8 hours, you leave your phone on your desk, whatever, for 8 hours, and it monitors things, seeing if it tries to kill the app or something like that. It does various different alerts, and it just checks how many of those can it do. And it got to the end after 8 hours and said, yeah, I could do 100% of them. It's kind of odd. I found that quite surprising for Xiaomi because normally they're very aggressive, especially on devices with a good battery life, which we'll come into. You think it's just killing all the processes behind. You have to do a few different things, so you have to set them to like not be battery optimized, things like that. But when they've done that, it seems to be okay. And in fact, generally that used to be an issue with me and Xiaomi software in that I just couldn't trust that I would get notifications because it seemed to kill stuff in the background and stop notifications coming through. I don't think you have that problem these days. But as I mentioned before, it's not that smooth on this hardware. So it is nice software, generally MIUI 12. and it's normally a sort of nice animations and quite flowing, but it's not great because of the hardware. Then we come to the battery. So as I mentioned, it's a 6,000 milliamp hour non-removable battery. It's got fast charging, 18 watts. It's got reverse charging, so you can use this phone to charge someone else's phone, which I think is quite cool. It's got an ultra, in fact, no, we'll come back to the ultra battery saver mode in a little while. It charges to full in about 3 hours, so it is a big battery, 6,000 milliamp hours. It's going to take a bit of time to charge up. In my battery test, it only scored 91%, which is odd because I'm fairly sure it's got the most ridiculous battery life of any Android phone I've ever used. So it's Monday evening now. Last Wednesday, I unboxed it and charged it. It came off charge around 7 o'clock, I think. I've only charged it once since then, and we're still at 50%. So that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then basically most of Monday. I've charged it once, and we've still got half the battery left. So AccuBattery says you get 14 hours of screen on time, 74 hours of combined use, so that's 3 days, and 133 hours if you just kind of left it on a desk and didn't use it much. But it's 3 days, 74 hours, and I believe it because I did basically go 3 days, and I think I still had 10% battery, and that's when I then did my one charge, and then I've been going since then. That's ridiculous. And then the ultra battery saver mode that I've mentioned, if we go into, there we go, are we going? No? There we go. Battery and performance, ultra battery saver. So I could turn it on and I can go from 40 hours remaining. Well, no, sorry, battery, so at the minute, 26 hours remaining. If I turn on battery saver, 40 hours remaining. If I go to ultra battery saver, 240 hours. That's 10 days. 10 days, and I'm at half battery. So in theory, 20 days? I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. Does it tell us? I'm not sure what it does. I mean, it may well shut it down so it's basically a dumb phone. But then, to be fair, that's not a bad thing. You can still go in and go to Instagram, and I'm sure then it will start loading things for you. But it just means that it shuts things down in the background. So, I mean, yeah. Ridiculous battery life. So, the conclusion is, at this price range, you're not going to get everything. You'd be lucky if you just get some bits. It's, it's 150, well, 120, 130 pound phone. If you want a nice screen, half decent speakers, amazing battery life, this phone could be the phone for you. If you're wanting anything to do with the kind of the camera and video, probably not. But I mean, yeah, 20 days battery life, possibly. I mean, 3 days, just regular use, 3 days battery life. That's pretty crazy. Would I generally recommend this phone? Probably not. It is a bit laggy, jerky, not so smooth, and a really not great camera. But for some people, it might suit them down to the ground. I know some people that I just need a phone with amazing battery life. This is it, for £130 in theory. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully that's been of some use to you. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I do read all of them. Thank you to anyone I think I've got 2 Patreons left still. Do check me out on patreon.com/AAUK. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Do please click that thumbs up. I know people get annoyed when they get asked to do that, but it helps. It does help me. If I've helped you with this video, why not just click a little thumbs up to help me? So that's it from me for now. My name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon.